Welcome to the Dance Studio Empire podcast, a mix of business strategies, simple tips for studio growth and success, with a touch of inspiration, motivation, plus raw and honest conversations to ensure you are building your studio empire. I'm your host, Jen Dalton, studio owner for 30 years, dance business coach, and author of the book Teaching Dance Beyond the Steps. My business philosophy is creativity is our superpower, and I believe we all have the means and ability to infiltrate this into our studio. Just sometimes we can get too busy, distracted, or overwhelmed to see that. And so this is exactly what I am here to help you do. Okay then, let's do this. Hit that subscribe button, sit back and relax. Now let's get ready to build your dance studio empire. Hello, and thank you for joining me for today's podcast. Now, this episode is part 2 of a 3-part series. So if you haven't yet listened, go back to the episode before so you can catch up. The series is how to plan, create, and execute your teacher training. Now, in the last episode, I discussed the planning phase, which is where I spoke about identifying the perfect teacher and what it looks like for your studio. Places to find that perfect teacher, as it is a worldwide issue at the moment trying to find teachers. And also the 6-step interviewing process to lock in that perfect teacher. And so this episode, I'm going to take you through the actual creating phase of your teacher training plan. Now, if possible, I'd suggest grabbing a pen and paper to take notes. This is a juicy episode full of super practical information. So if you are ready to get your teacher training sorted, I'm about to tell you everything you need to know. So let's get to it. All right, so the creating phase. Now, when it comes to planning, creating, and executing teacher training, I think a lot of studio owners are just simply unsure where to start. I think you know you need to do it. It's only going to benefit you. Some people have it absolutely nailed, which is awesome, but some people just aren't quite sure. So, if this is you and you'd like to either tweak the training that you're currently running, in this episode, I will tell you a quick and easy way to create your teacher training plan in 7 simple steps. Okay, so step 1 is when. So you need to decide what days and times you would like to run training for your teachers and staff. Now, I suggest doing this for a whole dance year. So for me, a dance year is 12 months. I'm in Australia. So I plan out my teacher training plan from January through to December. And then the questions that you want to ask are, how often do you want to run training sessions for your teachers and staff within that year? So for example, 4 times a year or once a semester or fortnightly, it's up to you. For me, I do 4 times a year. That's the plan that we have where we meet with our teachers. I'll also say I have several training plans. So I have a training plan for our senior teachers. I also have a training plan for our assistant teachers. And then there's a separate plan altogether for our admin staff. So I'm going to be speaking primarily about our senior teacher training, which actually is very similar to our assistant teacher, which is 4 times a year. Okay. Now, will you have a set day or time for the year? So again, this could be the last Friday before the new dance term starts, or maybe the first Monday of the month. Whatever's going to work for you. Again, for us, it is always that last Friday of the school holidays before the new term starts. And my teachers know that that's the day that we do teacher training. And then finally, for step 1 is how long will each of your training sessions run? Now, this could vary depending on the time of year or what you want to do, but it could be 2 hours, it could be a 10 till 2, or it could be a full day. Have a think what you think might suit you and your teachers. And the other thing is, if you are running several within a year, they don't need to be the same. you could just work out, okay, this is a particularly heavy training session where we're going to have to get a lot in. So a full day session might be better, and you could break it up with practical stuff as well as theory stuff. All right, so that is step one, which is when. Okay, moving on to step two. Now, step two is the who, the how, and the where of your training. So, who will you be training? And is it like a group training or a one on one with you and your teachers? Or is it training for your senior teachers or admin staff? You have to work out who it is you are actually training. How? So, how are you going to deliver this training? Will it be face to face at the studio, or will it be via Zoom or an online platform? Or maybe you would prefer self learning while your teachers are at home. I know one of my very good friends, she's a dance studio owner, and she sets a lot of self learning for her teachers. So she sends them off with workbooks and they have videos to watch, and that's how she does a lot of her training. And finally, where are you going to hold that training? So if you are doing in person or face to face, will it be at the studio or maybe at a cafe? Or maybe if you're a really great studio owner, you might do a weekend retreat away, something like that. So have a think about where it is you're going to hold your training. So step two is, who will you be training? How are you going to deliver that training? And where are you going to hold it? Okay, that's step two. All right, moving on to step three. Now, step three is, what are you going to teach? Now, this is the content, this is the ideas that you want to cover in teaching. And I know a lot of studio owners actually get stuck at this point as, I just don't know what to teach. I don't know how to come up with ideas. So I'm going to give you some questions to help you get the thought processes happening if you can't think of actual ideas to teach. Okay, so the first question is, list any concerns that you may have. So, have you noticed anything around the studio? Have you heard conversations? Maybe you're seeing a lack of preparation from some of your teachers, or maybe you're noticing that classes are starting late and they're not finishing on time, little things like that. Keep a list on your phone, if you can, in your notes section, just of little things that you might notice. Keep a list of that because they're really good things to train on. Another way is, you could collate any constructive feedback that you've had from parents or from students or even from other teachers. This is a really good way to find some training topics as well. New processes that you might want to implement. So, is there a new syllabus that you want to introduce, or possibly a new program or something like that? Maybe you're starting an acro program, or maybe you're starting a preschool program, something like that. Have a think if there's something new you want to introduce. They make really good training sessions. Another one, if you want to get away from in the studio, is have a look at some positive and negative trends in the industry, because they definitely keep training interesting, and it's a good way to stay in line with your teachers and keep them on board with what's happening across the industry. Sometimes we can get a little bit insulated in our own world, so that's a really good one to do as well. Okay, moving on. Step 4 is to collate that information. Okay, so you've now made a list of different ideas and topics that you want to train on. So now you want to use those ideas, and then you need to now build the information that you want to teach. Okay, now some ways that you might do this. So, for example, say it's managing different personalities in the classroom. How are you going to collate information about and how to train your teachers on this? Here are some ideas. You could use personal experience. So for you as a studio owner, surely if you've been in the doing this gig for a long time, you will have personal experiences that you can talk about and bring up and say how you manage different personalities in the classroom, for example. What worked, what didn't. A lot of my training is stuff that happened throughout the years that didn't work. And I just had to reassess and tried something new. And again, it might not have worked, but I've learned from that and tried it again. When you talk about things from personal experience, it's a lot easier for your teachers to really relate to. It's a very good training tool. Okay, another way is you could actually just do some research online. So, say you want to do something on communication or speaking to younger children. There's all this information is online. If you've got the time, you can get on and research it yourself. Another option is to invite guest trainers or presenters or other teachers. It's even if it's outside of the dance world, maybe you'll get a physiotherapist in or a nutritionist in to come and give a training session to your teachers. This really shakes things up a little bit as well, so it keeps the training interesting, which we want to do as well. Or finally, maybe you could use previously developed training programs like mine. I've got one. These are that completely done for you. So for me, I've got both a senior teacher and an assistant teacher training, which already has the workbooks. It already has the director's manual and PowerPoint presentations. So, and that's not the only one. There are lots out there. So maybe you could find those and purchase those, because sometimes the investment in something like that actually saves you time and money for the future. So have a look at some options that might be out there. I will definitely give you more info about mine later if that is something that might interest you. All right, so that's collating the information. Now, moving on, we've got step 5, which is now to organize this content. So you've got your topics, you've got your information. If you think back to step 1, I asked you to set out your training for the year. So if you're looking at a calendar, you should have the training days that you want booked in for your year. Now, having a look at those days, now you want to divide those topics, the content that you have across or evenly across those training days throughout the year. Now, for example, if that was a bit confusing, if you've planned 4 training days throughout the year, you could do possibly training session 1, you could do communication, discipline, and mid-year concert plans. So that might be training session 1. Training session 2, safe dance practice, dealing with failure and rejection, and the dancer's mindset. That might be your training session for 2. Session 3 might just be one big training session about your end of year concert plans. And session 4 might be nutrition, self-awareness, and your re-enrollment strategy for the new year. So have a think about it like that and divide it equally so that you can future plan with that training as well. All right, so that is step 5. Now, step 6, you want to now compile this information that you have for your teachers into a workbook or a document or a type of resource folder. Now, when you're putting your training documents or your workbook together, I want you to try and include some practical and written components. So your teachers will stay engaged and then they can actually include some of their own input. This just makes the training so much more involved with them. It's more interesting. And honestly, I think a lot of teachers, because of the way most of us learn, they will actually retain the information a lot better if they're practically involved as well. Now, Canva, of course, provides some really great templates for designing workbooks if you don't have time. But if it is just simply a Word document, because that's all you have time to do, then that's better than nothing, okay? Now, some things when you are compiling these workbooks, some things that you might want to include is questions. So asking them some questions. Include real life scenarios and examples. So again, they can relate to this. You can tell a story of something that happened and then how you sorted it out. Role playing, that's always fun. And, I get all my teachers up. It doesn't matter how old we are. We'll all get up and do some role playing. It can push some of your teachers out of their comfort zone, which I don't think is a bad thing as well. But it's a really effective learning tool doing role play. Another thing that I do and I would really encourage is a type of performance review. Now, whether that's once a year or twice a year, I feel these are really good, and I do different types of these. One is just a real quick 10-minute check-in chat. Others are sit down formal at the end of the year, and we sort of have a chat about things. The benefit of doing a performance review is not only it allows you to step in and just sort of give some feedback. Maybe you've noticed a few tiny little things happening or some behaviors creeping in that aren't quite in alignment with what you want for your teachers. These times are a really good time to just have a quick chat about that and just say, I've noticed this, why don't you try it this way? Or, give them an alternative to try and bring their attention to it, and then give them something else to try. And what it does, it actually just stops the problem getting bigger and then becoming way more stressful than it needs to be. So if you can book in performance reviews, actually have the date in as well throughout the year, that's a really good thing to include. And also a really good thing to include is space for them to take notes, because then again, creative, this is something they will keep with them. My teachers will walk around with resource folders. So things that we've done in training over the years, this can be over years, they can take, like we have a class planning document which they can use, and they just keep photocopying. They can use that for each of their lessons. They have yearly calendars, things like that they'll keep with them. So particularly if you're training something that is a continued expectation, then I would definitely put that into a workbook or a resource folder for your teachers. Okay, and then finally, step 7. Now, this might seem really simple, but you need to inform your teachers about the times and dates for the year, and then what's also expected from them on these days and times. So you want to ensure that these dates are in their diary. The benefit of this is you will then get priority of the day. So when they're coming up to that time and they're booking in different things, they'll see that training's on that day. So hopefully, unless it's something that they can't get out of, they will make training a priority, because that is another thing that a lot of studio owners do talk about, is that teachers don't turn up, or it's not a priority for them, or they've chosen to go to the beach or something like that. So if you get it in first, then they know what your expectations are. It's hopefully not taking up too much of their time. This is just part of their job. It's in there. So that's another good thing. That's why if you go back to step 1, pick those dates and times and lock them into a yearly calendar, your dance year calendar, and get those details to your teachers straight away at the beginning of your dance year. And of course, as they're coming up, you might want to remind them or get your studio manager to send out text message or messages on Facebook, however you communicate with your team, and just remind them that those training sessions are coming up. Okay, so that is it. They are your 7 simple steps that you need to do to create your teacher training plan. Now, as I mentioned earlier, I do have a complete done-for-you teacher training and development program, as well as an assistant teacher training program. If you are that type of person who doesn't have the time, or you'd rather spend your time elsewhere in your business, then this may be an option. These resources are here for you to help you if it suits you. Now, so what I'll do is I'll just leave the link below for that, and you can check those out. There's no pressure, of course, but they're there if you do want to check it out. Okay, well, that is it for this episode. Be sure to listen in next week, where I'll be talking about phase 3, which is the executing for your training. So until then, have a really great week and keep building your dance studio empire.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Dance Studio Empire. If you enjoyed it, please share it on your stories on Instagram, and be sure to tag me at Dance Teacher Central so I can say thank you. And if you really want to support me and the show, I'd absolutely love for you to leave a rating or review. For all the latest from me, you can follow me at Dance Teacher Central on Instagram and Facebook. Be sure to tune in next week for more strategies and tips to ensure you are building your dance studio empire.